the cultural benefit of automating all procedures that you have. One of the very strong statements for automation community they have in the modern corporation, anything that can be automated should be automated. But I truly stand beside that message for any executive. Anything in your company that you can automate, you should automate to be competitive. I would reach out to test automation teams because they have a culture of automation and experience and expertise, and open the gate to them to start talking to the business operation managers. Reach out to your procurement, reach out to your HR and say, hey guys, let us do pilot. Let us automate most mission critical process for you, and you will see the benefit of it.
Hey, it's Joe, and welcome to another episode of the Test Guild Automation Podcast. And today we'll be talking with Alex all about different approaches for automation, DevOps, Bizops, RPA, and it's really going to helpfully, cover all things that concern executives, developers, testers. So if you're listening, this is definitely for you. If you don't know, Alex is a pioneering force in software automation with a career spanning 2 decades marked by innovation and leadership. I've been in the game for a while, and I could swear I've seen Alex at different events for years and years and years. So really excited to have him on the show. He's also the CEO and founder of ZAPTEST, and Alex has revolutionized software testing and RPA, offering speed, ease, and efficiency with different solutions to help you get there. He's also a Ukraine native and former IDF serviceman. And Alex's journey from strategic alliance with Mercury Interactive to establishing ZAPTEST underscores his adaptability and vision. And he's contributed to multiple places like Forbes Technology Council. I think he's contributed to Gartner Tech CEO Highlights, and his influence is unparalleled in the tech space. Alex's leadership has not only elevated ZAPTEST, but also helped redefine software testing and automation. Really excited to finally get him on the show and talk to him. As I said, I've been seeing him for years at different events, and you don't want to miss this episode. Check it out. And as you know, I always say seeing is believing. And that's what's great about ZAPTEST. They actually have a free version you could try for yourself and see all the benefits that Alex went over in this episode. So all you need to do to get it is go to zaptest.com and click on the ZAPTEST free button. Hey, Alex, welcome to the Guild.
Hey, thanks for having me, Joe. Glad to be here. I want to start by telling how big of a fan I am. I love your show. And I love the way what you do it. It was my dream to combine software automation and entertainment, and you've done it for us. Thank you.
All right. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And as I mentioned, I've followed you for years and years and years, probably because I started off with Mercury Interactive as the first vendor testing solutions I ever got involved with. So you've been around for a while. So how did you get into automation testing that early in the game?
Oh, thanks for asking. I mean, I was, first of all, I was a drop-off of Israeli Special Ops, and my mission in life was to do something significant. And when I came to the States, I came across folks that I served an army with, and they said, hey, we're in a new game. There's test automation. It's a new industry if you want to join. So here's a white paper, learn the Windrunner, get certified, and we'll talk. So this is how I got into industry. But I always had this dream of combining apply special ops principles to software consulting, and it's worked. So we managed to be we had a reputation of Mercury SWAT team. So we've been on every single gig that had some difficulties. We were flying around the globe, me and my team. So this is how it started, and because I've been working with R&D very close and flying to Mercury R&D into Israel in the times where there were unrest on the streets and some resistance and intifada going on. And we were in the latest and greatest. I advised them what better to do and what technology and the functionality industry needs, because I've been talking to the clients directly. That got my involvement in the subject matter expertise, if you will. And later, we started to work on our own add-on, which used to be ZapFix. We were giving it away to clients of Quick Test Professional because we wanted to optimize object recognition and what's not. And this is how we transitioned into full-blown software company ourselves.
Awesome. So, Alex, I'm just curious to know, you've been in the field for a while then. What's exciting you about the current trends and maybe the direction you see ZAPTEST going that you think people should know more about?
AI. I live and breathe AI right now. So we're in a new, very exciting momentum in our everybody's careers, and I'm glad that I come into this momentum, uh, having an opportunity to do something exciting. And we definitely building up AI, injecting it in ZapTest, and soon it's going to be coming up even more visible modules that our customers will be using. Yeah. And another thing that excites me, its ability to bridge between the DevOps and Bizops throughout the automation, and basically over the nearly 30 years of automation industry, we basically corporate world adopts automation and has automation culture. It's not absolutely uh, foreign language for anyone. So everybody understand what automation is as and the significance of automation.
So, how do you get that automation culture, though, especially in DevOps and BizOps? A lot of times people think of just functional automation. When you're talking about automation in DevOps and BizOps, what kind of automation is it?
Well, for DevOps, predominantly, of course, it's a software testing. I mean, this is where it's a bridge between the development and the QA, right? That's already been done. We've been evangelists of test automation for over 20, 30 years, as long as the industry exists. But now we have a new game. Now we need to automate Bizops. And the Bizops, it's a completely untouched fault, very lightly touched, if you will, for many reasons. Lack of education and culture and the operational teams about automation, lack of the technical abilities and experience with automation. And for that matter, I see testers that will be those evangelists that will reach out to BizOps and offer their services to operational teams. And we, as the toolers, the people that develop technology that helps testers and operational teams to make automation, giving them seamless automation where testers basically don't need to rebuild their frameworks or pivot their ways as the way they do automation. They just either repurpose scripts that they already have for testing frameworks into the operation and continue automation in the BizOps world the same way they do in test automation today.
So, I guess, can you just define what is BizOps? And is BizOps more in the realm of executives, or is that also developers and testers?
Good question. So business operations, BizOps stands for business operations, right? So business operations, anything in the corporation that does not do development. Because today, any company, it's a hybrid of software company with the business of what this company represents, right? So anything that's focused on the business of that company, that's and we can start with the core operational team like procurement, account payable, receivable, HR, even the sales reports. Anything that supports operation of this company may be automated. But we can go even further with that. Besides just optimizing the operational processes, we can automate any operation that's human being done through the digital interface. Can be automated specifically with ZAPTEST today.
So, is it mainly package-based applications, or like you said, it's other maybe not necessarily web-based front ends that may be harder to automate, and that's where I guess RPA comes in?
Well, in sense, right. So in the traditional world, it's been divided, where the testing tools were focused on the automating the testing processes, and RPA tools were automating the operational processes. But in fact, if you step back, you'll see that pretty much the same style of automation, just the different tools being used in different ways. Goals are different, of course. Where in the test automation you focus on end validation, if we talk about functional automation, right? But on the RPA side, on operational automation, you focus more on the processing of the data. So, but in fact, if you automated login procedure for testing purposes to drive login into the system for further test automation, you can repurpose the script into the RPA allowing the bot basically log in with the same script into the system and continue doing the operational processes what it does. We're running a lot in our customer bases today, and customers saving a lot of time and the budget on repurposing, reusing the frameworks that they developed for testing into the operational costs, and vice versa. So basically, you're empowering with ZAPTEST, at least this is a mode of our technology. We're empowering testers to be not just the testers or operational automators, but rather software automation center of excellence, which deliver automation across the board for any group that needed their help within the corporation.
So, I like to dive into a few of those things that you just mentioned, and I like to use the framework I think you laid out in your Forbes article on the three main factors of test automation, or the three main test automation factors. So the first one was product. So I want to go through each one and see how it applies both to executives and maybe the tester developers. So product, obviously, I assume it has to do, say, ZAPTEST or whatever product someone is using. Can we talk a little bit about the product phase and maybe how ZAPTEST fits into that factor from executive first and then maybe developers and testers?
Absolutely. So if we'll talk about 3P model, right, what you're talking about, it's a product, process, and people. So we can look at that at any sequence, right? Depends on the need. But if we'll start with the product, we're talking about automation tool in the layman terms, right? So simply speaking. So automation tool has to be focusing on cross-platform, cross-technology automation. Meaning, we were one of the first in the industry that started concept of computer vision object recognition. Within ZAPTEST, we absolutely stay away from the dumb model, and how unorthodox it was at that time, we started to use OCR and enriched OCR with a bunch of mathematical algorithms that would become on the steroid. So today, Zoya, our ZAP object engine, allow you to automate and not negotiate what user interface you're automating. It's automating using the visual computer vision technology in the seamless way. So that gives you as a tool power to automate any tool in any process you'd like. Not tool, I'm sorry, to automate any application in any process you'd like. To the even extent that we reverse engineer BDD. In fact, that you don't need a Gherkin and the Selenium on the back end. If you're talking about the agile automation, you can take any sketch on the whiteboard, take a picture with your phone, and scan it with Zap Scanner to build the object repository based on the picture. And you construct the script even before application being released. So as an automator, you're always ahead of the developers rather than waiting in line, right? So just to get back to the point of the product. So product has to be absolutely flexible in terms of what it can automate and which delivery schedule it can meet. Because with ZAPTEST, for example, you can shift the delivery schedule, depends on the style, what your developers are using. Again, as I mentioned, if you're an agile, you can be on the mock-up automation and you can be early in the automation phase, right? If you work in a more conventional way, when you have a subject matter expert that suggests the scenarios for automation, we have video recording scenario technology that allows non-technical personnel, less technical, I should say, to record desktop video and pass it on to automators within the same ZAPTEST framework. So automators on their time zone can just open their pre-recorded scenario, it's the same shell, and parse it to the objects and create automation based on the video. They don't even need to access the live application. And those plays apply to many scenarios in our everyday life. If you employee of the company and you run an automation group, or specifically if you're a consulting firm or consultant that may have some restriction, or if you work remotely in a different time zone. Make sense? So getting back to the tool, it has to automate anything, can run in the cross-platform fashion. We have a technology that allows you to structure all in any platforms of diverse denomination. You can have physical virtual machine, physical server virtual machine, mobile phone emulator, all in one stack and run one script across all of them in parallel. Because our object recognition very forgiving, it's a computer vision. It does not negotiate what properties of the UI objects you have. So it treats the same, absolutely same way. So again, back to the tool. Tool has to automate any application, meet any delivery schedule, any development schedule, and has to be absolutely cross-platform. And on the top of everything, if we're talking about merging Bizops and DevOps, it has to have seamless framework, seamless application to whatever the task you automate, without negotiating what you're doing it for a business operation or you're doing it for a quality assurance group.
Nice. So I was doing a little research, and I think you just came out with the WebDriver integration, but I'm just a little confused because it sounds like your technology does more vision-based. So how does WebDriver then tie in? Is it, like you said, being able to handle wherever you are within your company with your technology, so it's seamless, and that's why you have this WebDriver integration, or what's that all about?
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, we're very excited about it. And we've been holding back for a while, merging with WebDriver. But recently we understood with the whole volume of, and I want to give Selenium, taking my hat to them. They did a fantastic job of popularizing technology. Open source that changed the culture of automation perception completely. So we want to invite WebDriver development community into ZAPTEST. And with integration of WebDriver, we're offering community multiple benefits. Benefit number one, if you're using WebDriver and you're happy with WebDriver, it does what you need. We're giving you component-based architecture of WebDriver. That's for years wasn't there because the WebDriver is a very low development level technology, which requires a lot of scripting. It's very linear. It does not presume many components that can be shareable and reusable. That's a lot of manual groundwork that you need to do. So this is what we do better within the ZAPTEST. If you use ZAPTEST and the WebDriver within ZAPTEST, you will have object repository that you can repurpose to different scripts. You not to mention that you're going to have all the function libraries, all the data sources, everything that you would have done if you use the component-oriented tool. Make sense? Another huge benefit that you will have from using WebDriver within ZAPTEST, it's a three-way automation. You have three engines built in. You have a WebDriver that you're going to be driving off. For non-web objects, you can use a Zoe, our native object engine, which is uses computer vision. So all in the same script. And we have a demos online that you can watch and see how it's done. And on the top of everything, you can use API calls within the same script. So you can design any place you'd like for your automation. No restriction whatsoever. You have any task automation technology within ZAPTEST. If your manager going to ask you to automate something, there's never going to be a reason that your tool ZAPTEST will not do it. You can automate it either web or non-web, mobile, mainframe, even mockups. Anything that needs automation can be automated with ZAPTEST.
All right, so sounds awesome. How does it work though? So like I know people have thousands and thousands of Selenium tests already in a framework. Do they have to start with Zap first, or do they import it into Zap and then they get all these benefits? How hard is it them to then integrate Zap then into maybe if they have a very large existing automation framework based on Selenium?
Well, we're working on the integration of the existing frameworks, and it's due to be released soon. But today you can continue your automation with ZAPTEST and using the WebDriver as is. So you're going to leverage all your automation skills. And there are some components that you will be leveraging going further as far as data sets, of course, function libraries that you have external and what's not, if you'd like to create that. Absolutely.
Nice. So I just know when I was working for healthcare, we started off using Selenium. And it turned out we had to interact like a year later, interact with a thick client application that would come up through the web browser. And we couldn't automate it. We had to do all these janky things to get it to work. It sounds like using something like Zap, if we had that that would have been like, no, we'll just use Zap because then we get the benefit of the Selenium, but we can also then automate these other things that we didn't anticipate, is what it sounds like.
Absolutely, Joe. Definitely. Thanks for saying that. You got it. So you have a crossover with ZAPTEST. There are no limitation or pavement on the road that's going to block you. Because if your objects is not HTML based, you can kick in Zap Zoe statement and Zoe object, ZAPTEST object, when you WebDriver cannot do. And on the top, again, as I said, you can also do APIs.
Yeah. So with the API, then usually someone needs to pull in a library like Rest Assured or something, and then code it up. It sounds like your technology also does component-based automation. So does it make it API testing easier, where they don't have to just do the calls themselves? How does that work?
Well, it's worked in a similar fashion as other API tools, but here you have duality. You can use ZAPTEST because we have a different studios that every basically member of the team, depends on their role in the process, gonna use. And one of the studios, it's an API studio. It's a standalone studio where you can use it as a standalone API automation technology. We have full parameterization. We got all the correlation, all the managers and what's not. We got a lot of utilities built in. That makes your life easier as an API automator. But also, if you use a OneScript studio, which is a core UI automation studio for ZAPTEST, you can use API calls within the UI script. So to mix and match it. And some calls going to be from user interface validating this step, and another call will be from API to see how the system responses to that. So you can validate sanity.
All right. So as automation engineers and testers, we're geeking out. We love this, but like if an executive's listening to this, like, why should they care? Like, what is the big benefit of this for them that you think it should be a takeaway?
Well, where would I start? I mean, with developers, it's easier. It's easy to explain, right? But with executives, we starting from, and I can start very high. How I usually talk to C executives, right? So first of all, we bridging the DevOps and Bizops. This is how we started this meeting, this conversation with, right? So that's already a huge benefit. It's a cultural benefit of automating all procedures that you have. I'm working with Gartner very close, and I'm a big fan of Gartner. I love those guys. I think they true visionaries. And one of the very strong statements for automation community they had in the modern corporation, anything that can be automated should be automated. And yada, 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 that explains what the benefits, right? But I truly stand beside that message for any executive. Anything in your company that you can automate, you should automate to be competitive. Now, if we're going to dive lower a little bit from that message, we can start discussing application of who going to do it and to whom, right? And we already mentioned that as well, that I would start evangelizing automation within the company from testers. I would reach out to test automation teams because they have a culture of automation and experience and expertise, and open the gate to them to start talking to the business operation managers. Reach out to your procurement, reach out to your HR and say, hey guys, let us do pilot. Let us automate most mission critical process for you, and you will see the benefit of it. And this is how do you cross over in the culture of automation from DevOps to Bizops. And again, as a tooler, I can guarantee you that our tool supports this motion.
Excellent. So we covered the product piece of the three main test automation factors. Let's go over the other two really quick. The second one is people. So how would you break down what do people have to do with the automation factors on how you decide on test automation?
Of course, a lot, because they are the people that define and set expectation that other people need to meet. So I was one of the part of the design group of the business process testing tool in the beginning in the Mercury. You remember that tool? It was part of the quality center. Basically, it was designed on the commotion of differentiating role in the testing process. In the Windrunner era, we had an idea of one person that does automation. But then we figure out that it's not correct, because you always have person that knows what needs to be automated. So you have a subject matter expert that not necessarily need to know automation, and you have automation mechanic, which is us automators, that needs to take the requirements and develop automation, pass it on for execution, or execute it ourselves, pass it on just the result. So people that will be part of the automation process, first of all, needs to have a distinguished roles. So you might, and one of the plays maybe you will have two roles to make it simple. You have a subject matter expert group that may be business analysts, manual testers. Don't try to make them automators. I would like to keep it separate, because it's a very unique skills of knowing business aspect of the process, right? And making sure that they can dictate the scenarios to automators to automate upon. And of course, you have a group of the automators, those are the core mechanics, that will be taking those scenarios in any forms, building automation, and make sure that all this train runs around flawlessly, right, without the hiccups. So that takes a different set of skills, different education, more aligned with the software development skills and software development education and experience. And if you don't interrupt and don't disrupt that, you're always going to have healthy automation within the company that's going to be reducing the maintenance. Because, maintenance, that's what kills all the projects. You're making the poor choice of tool, you're making the poor choice of skills in your group, and you're going to end up with the huge overhead maintenance that's going to kill all the budget, eat all the budget, and kill all the effort of the automation. Makes sense? So a lot of projects that fell through in my 25 years career were based on the high maintenance.
So what about if someone says, well, AI is going to solve all that? We don't need to worry about people anymore.
Well,
how hardcore are you with AI?
Well, it's very tense, because we're all professionals and we definitely would like to stay in the game. But we've been through different tsunamis of web and other technological changes, right? And mobile. That's definitely much more overwhelming than anything that we've seen yet. But as long as the people still gonna make a final decision on any technological procedure, humans still gonna be in charge, and the technology and the processes that we're gonna develop and automate will be oriented to human. What I do believe in AI, and this is why I'm very excited about it, it's gonna tremendously turbo boost our productivity. So I'm not suggesting that we need to cut the head count. I suggest that we can automate much more with what we've got. And the perception of deliverables will change with AI.
Awesome. And so the third piece then is process. Well, how does process play into test automation factors that you've seen?
Absolutely. So the process relies more to development schedule or the operational process. As automators, we need to design the work approach based on what we need to deliver, right? For example, if I'm running automation game for a very early adopter agile team where I have very short iteration of builds, I need to focus on the all kind of early automation routines and procedures. If my team does not presume that I'm going to have a subject matter expert, but rather my automators, and I'm wearing a manager hat right now, executive, right? My automators know the subject expertise, maybe part of the development team that knows the business rule of application and what needs to be developed. Because usually we suggest if we're in a very kind of agile environment, we do what we used to call three amigos meeting, right? Where we have a product owner, head of development, and head of testing. So we all have to be in this meeting. We'll take the same requirements. We agree on the same mockups, and we're going to run building automation while the developers building the actual software, and we're going to meet them at the release point. So this is the process that I have to meet. If my schedule is less tense and I have more time, And I do have a team of subject matter experts that are appointed or part of the team. So my process is going to change. So I'm going to use, for example, artifacts like video scenario recordings. And I'm going to have a team that's going to be responsible for them to make sure that they developed and that they're accurate. We also allow in the Rec Studio audio narration that basically you can create all the desktop movie and pass it on. And the automators will pick up this video, understand without taking anybody else's time on their own time zone and their own time, and build the automation because you can parse either mockup or you can parse video with ZAPTEST scanner. So it's built for a complete object repository, and they can construct the entire automation without even taking anybody else more time, or in some cases even touching the application live for whatever reason that might be. Yeah, so you changing the process as you need. So process of automation, as you said, need to be very carefully discussed. Every executive has to be honest to situation if they have a budget for particular skill set or they don't have a budget for particular skill set. Makes sense? And build a process that's process oriented rather than skill centric, because we're all human. People objective changes, people common, people living, and in order to protect the process altogether, I suggest all executives to be and evaluate their budget, their headcount, and possibilities of building the automation group accordingly.
So budget, executives, a lot of times I've worked for a company where they said, we're getting rid of all the vendor tools, we're going open source. And I swear they spent more money doing that than staying with the vendor. So how do you inform the executives that, yes, it's open source, but there's a cost to it? Maybe you need to weigh both these options. Like, I love vendors and I also love open source, but there has to be a point where there is a cost associated with open source as well, and give them a fair way to evaluate both solutions.
You're absolutely right. And we have this conversation plenty. This is why we made a hybrid solution. Anything in Zap is a hybrid. If you look at us, we're very unorthodox in any way we do things. And we're intentionally challenging ourselves to do so because you have to innovate something new. And you cannot, and that's based on my experience of being evangelist for 20 years. That if I'll tell you that you're going to fly tomorrow, you won't believe me and you probably won't like me, right? But if I'll tell you that you can jump high, and you can move faster this way, then you're gonna try that because it's not that far away from the reality, right? So what I'm trying to say, at ZEP, we trying to advance technology and community gradually. So to address your question about open source, for us as a commercial vendors, it's always a challenge because there's, as I said, Selenium guys did a great job of popularizing technology. When it comes to tools, of course, open source is the first choice. But as you said, there's a huge overhead, huge cost of maintenance and upfront labor and maintenance altogether. So at ZEP, we hybrided it. We offer in our enterprise customers unlimited licenses of our software. So once you onboard ZAPTEST, you can run it unlimited for any purpose of any group in your company. Right.
Even on containers, you could spin it up infinitely?
Anywhere. Anywhere, anything that has a domain name of your company, eligible to start using ZAPTEST right away. So that gives you a sense of the commercial quality technology like ZAPTEST, because we have a top-notch engineers that working on that, PhD in math and what's not, and also ability to use it unrestricted at any purpose you need it to. So this is why you can easily infuse ZAPTEST once you're on board at the first phase, if you executive in any group. If you manager, let's say test automation manager, you can start building up your team by offering your company more automation services within the company. And I always encourage my customers, who's the manager, I said, don't stop. I will help you to do automation awareness in other groups with all the collaterals. I'm going to co-host with you and teach and educate the community, all the executives, how much you can do for them and what the automation and ZAPTEST can do as well.
So that's a lot. People, process, product to get right, especially when you go in open source. So you've had all this experience. Zap's been around for a while. Have you baked into this as well into the tool so that it's almost like best practices are baked into it, so people don't have to learn from scratch over and over again how to get it up and running or where to use it best? And you mentioned educating your executives, but is it explicitly built into the tool itself or the process that makes it easier, maybe? Or I don't know if that makes any sense. To make the process
It does.
easier for someone
It
just
does.
using the tool. All right. Yeah.
No, it's a great question, and I'm glad that you asked that. So, in order to enable people faster, we appoint a ZAP named account ZAP expert. So basically, if you're on board ZAPTEST, you have unlimited licenses, and we're giving you complimentary full-time expert who's trained and certified by us, who are going to be, if you wish, as a consultant sort of role, that's going to work for you every day. The mission of our experts, not just to script and expedite productivity with ZAPTEST, also act as a first tier of support. So you don't need to call ZAPTEST support. You reach out to your expert, and John knows he's like a resident automator, if you will, right, within your company. He knows your framework, he knows the skill set of people. Many of them already know him. It's easier for him to advise you and answer your question toward what you're trying to achieve as a first tier of support. Of course, John also going to be writing scripts for whatever the onboarding manager needs to. But also, John can outsource and build automation for other groups if, of course, team in agreement with that, to start evangelize automation to other groups within the company. So education is a big key of that. Besides the educational materials that we have online, we also, speaking of AI, building up educational modules based on AI, of course. But we have a human resident that will be a part of the team that makes sure that you always answer the question in time. He will advise you on the best practices, how you build architecture, how you design sort of automation component and what's not, right? And this way you guys going to be productive. If you onboard new members, John's going to work with them and enable them and do mentoring session to make sure that they onboard it properly.
So I've written in my notes, I don't know if this is the same thing, ZAP partnership program. Is that the same? Is it you're partnering with ZAP with an expert, or is this something totally different?
Well, we have two main go-to-market strategies. Of course, one is any vendor, we go reaching out direct to our customers, but we also have a partner program. We're reaching out to the services company and saying, guys, we have a skyrocketing technology that will help you to deliver more automation for your clients, first of all. And you, the same way, can bridge from being a testing service partner to being general software automation service partner, and predominantly next step for you to reach out to operational teams to start offering them services and operation. Make sense? So basically, we empower a services company to do more than what they're doing today.
Okay, Alex, before we go, is there one piece of advice you can give to someone to help them with their automation testing efforts? And what's the best way to find, contact you, or learn more about ZAP? And to make it extra complicated for you, if you give that one piece of advice for executive for one, and then if someone's listening as a developer, what that one piece of advice would be. I don't know if that makes sense, but one piece of advice for an executive and one piece of actual advice for a developer after listening to this that they can implement.
Of course, for executives, implement automation anywhere you can, because through automation, your company, no matter what you do, always going to be in a competitive phase where you at. So anywhere where you can automate, try to automate. For developers, I want to advise to choose the technology and the processes that suits you the best, and always try to stay in the cross automation phase. Sort of, don't focus just on one application, because you never know what other application you will be given to automate tomorrow, right? So to choose tools that you use and the frameworks that you implement to be in the cross-border, broader kind of outlook. And of course, automate as much as you can. And use ZAPTEST.
And what's the best way to find you or contact you or learn more about ZAPTEST?
Well, definitely zaptest.com. You can book meeting with us if you direct customer, or if you partner. We have a partner page that explains the benefits. And soon we're planning to release Zap Talk. It's going to be a podcast where I'm going to be talking about aspects of software automation for executives and developers. And we're going to mix it also with some life aspects of everyday life. So we can take our ties off and do like a break time together.
Thanks again for your automation awesomeness. For links to everything of value we covered in this episode, head on over to testguild.com/A469. And if the show has helped you in any way, why not rate it and review it in iTunes? Reviews really help in the rankings of the show, and I read each and every one of them. So that's it for this episode of the Test Guild Automation Podcast. I'm Joe, and my mission is to help you succeed with creating end-to-end, full-stack automation awesomeness. As always, test everything and keep the good. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Test Guild Automation Podcast. Head on over to testguild.com for full show notes, amazing blog articles, and online testing conferences. Don't forget to subscribe to the Guild to continue your testing journey.